So we're looking at another Peugeot from the 90s and 2000s category, and this time it's the 908. Now Peugeot started their campaign in 2005, but it wasn't until 2009 when they won Le Mans with Alex Wurz, Marc Genet and David Brabham. So Alex, tell us about that year, about that car and what you remember about it.
Well, I remember the good times to win Le Mans. It was my second win. I came back from I think 12 years absence due to my Formula One activities. But I clearly remember it wasn't an easy victory because the team internal fight was really intense. You know, every of the three, actually four cars with the Oregon team as well being equipped with a 908 was a tough battle. And we came out as the ones winning it. And of course, that remains is a very sweet and special memory for me.
And actually from that, you went on to win 3 big sports car classic events, didn't you?
Yeah, absolutely. With the 908, we went to Sebring, winning the classic there. We went to Petit Le Mans, which we also won all of those races in the first attempt. I won Le Mans as youngest winner ever, also in my first attempt. So yeah, good memories actually. Thanks for reminding me. And I was always super happy in the 908. It was a car, the car itself with the Michelin tires, it felt like the extension of me. So wherever I wanted to position it, it went there. It was maybe one of the best race cars I drove, to be honest.
I said they started in 2005. Obviously, you didn't join them till 2008, but did you see a development of the 908 from when you started and moving forward?
Actually, it was in 2007 when I went to Paul Ricard for a road safety conference. I have just signed a deal with Williams to race in Formula One, and I saw the 908 testing. So I thought to myself, hey, I want to race that car. So I searched who is the sporting director. It was Serge Saulnier. I found out his number. I called him. I want to race for him in Le Mans and the championship. And he said, yeah, but you're racing in F1. I said, yeah, don't worry about this. I will sort it out. But I saw the car and I was instantly in love because my childhood dream is always sports cars. And back then it was Group C's. And then we kept talking throughout the season. And I did indeed join in the end of 2007 the testing program and started racing in 2008 for 3 races and continued to race more in 2009.
God, I love that story. Could you imagine that happening now?
Well, I would still do the same because, you know, endurance racing for me is something such authentic, heroic. It is straight what it is. It's man and machine against time. And it's just very purist. And this is why I loved it as a kid. And the shape of the cars is anyway sensational. And the 908, which we raced in 2009, still without shark fin. And if I see the pictures, whilst the shark fin is helpful for safety, I'm very honest, I don't like the looks of it. But the 908 still has without shark fin. It was 2-meter wide race car, really flat. And it was, at the time, it was diesel powered. It was new racing technology. Audi came in, Peugeot upped the game, and it was typically Le Mans to give opportunity for new technologies to prove themselves. And it made the diesel engines nowadays, no one wants to talk about it, but very efficient, really powerful, and the race results proved it. Of course, after I changed to Toyota, I'm wearing a Toyota shirt now, because the next step of technology came in, which is hybrid technology. And I knew that Toyota is the global leader on this field, so I was lucky to change after my Peugeot days to Toyota.
Porsche came back to endurance racing in the 919 hybrid in 2014, and it was Timo Bernhard who was part of the 2017 Le Mans winning team. Timo, the 919 hybrid actually ticked off so many different achievements for Porsche. Just start by telling us about some of the highlights of those achievements.
Yes, 100%. I mean, I was waiting as a Porsche junior. I was waiting over the years to have a project like that. So finally, when it came together, that the 2014 will be back. It was a pleasure and a chance of my life in a way. And so the highlights for me was definitely, when the project started, like the part until the first racing action happened, because it was not always like so easy. We had some bumpy roads on the way there, but being at Le Mans in 2014 and having led the race for part, that was definitely thrilling. And then everything came afterwards with the huge successes, like 3-time world champion, 3-time Le Mans winner overall. So I can go on with that list, but it's amazing.
Well, yeah, please do. So tell us about the 2017. Unfortunately, Mark Webber was not part of your driver lineup that year because he retired the year before.
Yes.
So just tell us about how it was for you back in 17 when you got that win for all of you guys. I think that was Brendan's first Le Mans win as well, wasn't it?
Exactly. Well, it was in a way, I have to say, I mean, I won Le Mans before with Audi, and it's very special. But in a way, my heart was, urging for a win with Porsche, and you never know if you can ever make it happen. But in 14, we were leading, in 2 hours to go, we had an engine failure. In 15, we finished second. In 16, we were leading again, but we had another problem. So we finished far back. So 17, in a way, I had the feeling maybe it's the last chance to fulfill it. You mentioned, I mean, Mark Webber, the big asset of our driving crew, was not part of the 17 lineup because he stopped before. We tried to convince him to go on, but you choose otherwise. But definitely it was emotional when we got the victory that he was on the podium, giving us the trophy. So there was that team bond came back. But if I just want to highlight a little bit that 17 race, because we had a good preparation, we had a good quali. And then after 3 hours, the car was in the garage. So for us, it was drama in a way, with a failure on the front axle gearbox, and we had to change. The guys did a great job. So I think 60 minutes repair, and the car was out and was running and was flawless running. And we never gave up in a way. So the whole team was pushing, and like 1 hour before the end, we got that, we took the lead.
I was just about to say, I remember that phrase, never give up. And that's what you took away from that 17 win, wasn't it?
100%. And sometimes you speak about it and you say, yeah, okay, never give up. And then it feels like a phrase, but in that moment, you really feel when everybody's pushing to do his best on his part, getting the car out of the garage, that it's, because there's still 20 hours ahead, and you can't let the people down, in the garage. You can let the people down at home. You can let the people down, that are waiting desperately on the grandstands to see their car, their favorite car running. So for all the Porsche enthusiasts outside, you can see that. And for us, it was a moment when I felt, like early in the race when the car was out after the repair, that there's still something, going. There's still something in this race which we can show and prove. And, in the end, I never thought about the victory, but I thought, there's still something good to happen. And in the end, it was like a fairy tale.
It really was. Our competitors in the Le Mans Esports final are also going to be racing at the Nürburgring. They're going to be in cars from the 80s, Jaguar XJR9 and a Mercedes C9. But you, of course, I can talk to you for ages about Nürburgring and your achievements there, but in particularly with the 919, it was like your swan song, really, wasn't it, that time?
Well, yeah, so after the Le Mans project was finished, the WC project, and the whole team was still together, there were, Porsche thought about like a tribute tour for the 919, and one of the ideas was to run that car on the most famous racetrack, if you want to call so, on Earth, which is the Nürburgring Nordschleife, which combines every possible corner on Earth into one track. 20.8 kilometers long, and challenging with a lot of elevation. And we actually brought this high-tech 919 car, unleashed, without the restriction of the rules, this high-tech car on an old school racetrack. And that was, I have to say, the most challenging thing I've ever done. Even though it was not a competition, we treated it like a competition, and it's still stunning for me what the team achieved, to set the car up, to stay calm, and in the end, like, to show everybody that you can drive this powerful car on this old school track. So yeah, I still get adrenaline going when I think about it. Yeah,
that's a world record.
Yeah. Well, yeah, in the end, I mean, we know if we get the lap together that there will be a stunning time, but I think the way we did it was very positive, and I take away from it just the, I spoke about the adrenaline, but just this excitement and the cornering speed and the, you know, because the track is very narrow, but the speed was high. So just all the information flying at the driver, flying at me in this couple of laps I did, this is just something I will never forget. You know, that was really the ultimate feeling I ever had in a race car, you know.
That's great. Thank you very much, Timo. It's lovely to talk to you and hear about the 919. It feels like so long ago now. It's such a shame.
Yes,
do you think that you're still heavily involved in Porsche? Do you think that there will be a comeback for Porsche in the top category? Of course, they're still heavily involved in GT.
Yes. I mean, if you see that Porsche, you know, the motorsport is in the DNA. You see how many categories and how many, you know, races they do, you know, all over the globe. So that's impressive. But for sure, I hope that, you know, someday in the future, Porsche will be back, because it's really where they belong.
Joining me next is Alan McNish. And of course, Alan, you competed in the 2011 Le Mans. Tell us about that year.
Yeah, it was certainly quite an explosive race, that's for sure. 11, and that whole period, Louise, between sort of 2007 and 2012 was really, really competitive. We had a very strong battle between Audi and Peugeot. Every race we went to, it was extremely aggressive, extremely fast, but the differences were absolutely minuscule. But the 11 year was actually the first time we as Audi had gone with a closed cockpit car. The regulations had changed. It meant that aerodynamic efficiency was the most important factor. And to be honest, you could only be competitive with a closed cockpit car. And from that perspective, it was the start of a next generation of, I would say, Audis, if you like, because clearly from the R8, when they entered back in '99, all the way through it, pretty much been open top and a different philosophy. So we're learning a lot about it. Audi did win. It certainly wasn't our car, because that was the year I had the big shunt with Beltoise going down through the S's, principally because we were both, I was fighting for the lead of the race with Timo Bernhard in our sister car, but didn't see the Ferrari at all, because that was one of the things that was quite clear. And the regulations actually changed after that, where the wheel arches, because of the big front tires that we were using to get the grip from the Michelin on the front axle, were so high, but also with the big A-pillars as well, your narrow view was just straight out the front. So view to the side was extremely limited for everybody. And ultimately, they changed the regulations after that. But I have to say, I've got a very, very small memory of that particular race itself.
Yeah, I can imagine you have. You mentioned Peugeot as your competitors. One of the other cars in the Le Mans Esports series is the Peugeot 908 from 2009. So tell us about that car as you saw it as a competitor and what you were racing against them then.
Well, certainly the 908 was a big competitor in so many ways. And I mean that as a car, but also mean it as the driver lineups as well. They had a really strong driver lineup. They had a forceful team. And it was quite interesting with the dynamics, the way that you would race. You know, you think of the French as an emotional, sort of flamboyant type of nation. And you maybe think of the Germans as a little bit more structured and organized. And that definitely came through in the style of the car. Our car was robust, it was solid, it was reliable, and it got the job done. Whereas there was times, very honestly, where the Peugeot was faster. The 908 was quicker than us. But ultimately, over a 24-hour race, you had to deliver lap after lap, wet, dry, changing conditions, pit stops, everything. And that's where the R18 came into its own with the Audi. But the 908, I have to say, was a forceful car, especially in the acceleration and its efficiency. The straight line efficiency was very, very good.
Looking over your shoulder there, I can see the Jaguar poster. Now again, the guys are going to be racing in the 1988 Jaguar XJR9.
Yeah.
What are your memories of that car? I know you didn't drive it then.
No, I didn't. I certainly didn't drive this one back in '56. This is the start of that Jaguar story. It's when Écurie Écosse went to Le Mans as a privateer Scottish team. and they won it outright, which, to be honest, is where it's given, I think, me and also other Scots a real close feeling to La Sarthe. But you said about 1988. I remember it because of another Scottish driver in there, Johnny Dumfries. Now, I come from Dumfries in the southwest of Scotland, and Johnny is the Earl of Dumfries, the area where I'm from. And he was just stepped out of Formula One, just got in there. There was a titanic battle again. You had your Jaguars and your Mercedes and Mazdas and other people in and around there, Toyota. And ultimately, it was that Jag that stepped out. And that car delivered them a victory. And it was one of the hardest fought victories, I think, that's been in Le Mans for quite a long period of time. And set up such a history, which I think is the common theme through here, is that, you know, you do get car brands and you get teams, but you get history being made as it's going along. And that one was, I think, a defining factor of the Jaguar history, just in a similar way that the D-Type was in the background as well.
Okay.
Well, one of the cars that the competitors will be racing in is the Peugeot 905 Evo from 1993. But Yannick Dalmas won in a 905 in 1992 at Le Mans. Yannick, the 93 Evo was a real turning point for Peugeot, for sports car racing, and really made its mark in history, didn't it?
Yes, Louise, for me it was in the period in my life in motor racing, it was fantastic. And the Evo, we had the sequential gearbox, you know. The year before, we have the H gearbox. It's a big difference. The engine was a little bit stronger, the rev stronger. The general evolution in the car was fantastic. Also, one thing's very, very important, and never forget, Michelin made a really good job for our car also. We came, today you depends the period, you know, during the race, sometimes double stints, sometimes during the night, 3 stints with the tires. But at this time, we make it double stints easily.
Right.
The car was really fast, really fast and straight. Not very easy to drive, but the racing car never easy to drive, but comfortable. The sensation, the handling of the car on a fast car, you know, Le Mans. Between, you know, the Porsche curve until the finish line, this part of the circuit is very difficult, very fast. You need a strong car. This part, and the car was not easy to drive, but very, very efficient. You have to be concentrated 100% all the time, until on a long stretch, concentrate between the braking, because the car also was very, very efficient on the braking. And you need to be very strong during your stints. Difficult to lose your concentration 1 second, because it was really nice, yeah.
The team worked very hard between 92 and 93 to make all those changes and to really develop the car, didn't they?
Yes. We make it, I think, between 3 and nearly 5 24-hour simulation.
Wow.
You know, to prepare everything. To be honest, it was a lot of work.
Yeah.
At this period, it was different, because we stay many hours in the car. For me, when I jump in the car, it's like sitting in your seat
in front of the TV, you know.
Yeah.
It was exactly the same, because we developed a lot of things, braking, the brakes, the aerodynamic, the engines, the tires also. Michelin, I repeat, but he make an excellent job, you know.
And it looked amazing as well.
Yes. Yes.
It really did.